treasure is, there your heart will be also. Matthew 6 verse 21.
Once upon a time, there lived two boys named Sam and Raju. They were neighbors. Every day, Raju used to get ready early and wait for Sam to come so they could go to school together. They made the walk to school fun-filled by observing and talking about everything that they could see on the way to school. On the way, they could see several things like coconut trees, jackfruit trees, areca trees. After that, they crossed a small stream. Wetting their legs in the stream water was an attraction for them. The hill beyond the stream topped a tamarind tree. Little further on the edge of the hill, there was a custard apple tree adjacent to its owner's house. One day, their eyes fell upon light pinkish custard apple on the tree that appeared almost ready to be eaten up. Sam insisted that they could pluck that and have it. Though Raju resisted initially, they could not resist the temptation and managed to pluck the custard apple without being noticed by the owner. To their disappointment, the custard apple was not ready to be eaten up. There was a huge rock right below the road. Pointing to the rock, Sam suggested that they will wrap the custard apple in dry leaves and hid it under the rock for till it to be ripened. Raju agreed and they quickly hid it under the rock and rushed to school. Their classroom, 2nd A, was first in the building facing the sports ground. The whole day, Raju could think nothing but about the custard apple that he hid under the rock. The maths teacher saw Raju looking through the window outside. She thought he was enjoying the sports activity going on in the ground. In an attempt to get his attention back into the class, she asked him, "Raju, what is 2 plus 2? Lost in his dream about the custard apple, he couldn't hear the teacher's question. Sam, who was sitting next to him, poked him and said, "Teacher is calling you." That's when teacher called out his name for the second time. Just woken up from his daydream, Raju stood up and said aloud, "Custard apple." Everybody in the class laughed. As soon as the last bell rang, which was the symbol that the school was over for the day, Raju grabbed Sam's hand and began to run to the rock where they hid the custard apple. Raju outran Sam and reached the rock first and took hold of the custard apple. Since it was not ripened, Sam suggested to keep the custard apple under the rock until the next day. So next morning, very early, Raju got up and was getting ready to go to school. Surprised by Raju's enthusiasm, his mother asked, "Why are you getting ready today? Today is Saturday and you don't have school." Hearing that, Raju was so disappointed that he had to wait for 2 days to get to that custard apple. Since it was his auntie's engagement on Monday, his mother asked the children to get ready to go with her on Sunday afternoon to go to his mother's place. Raju, who didn't want to go, made his excuse that he will go with his father the next morning. Though his mother insisted to go with her, Raju wouldn't change his mind. So his father said, "It's okay, let him come with me tomorrow." The next morning, he made an excuse to his father, saying that He has an important maths exam and cannot miss that day. Though father tried to convince him, he wouldn't bend. Finally, father agreed. Getting ready earlier than usual, he was waiting for his friend Sam to arrive. When Sam arrived, they rushed to the rock where they hid the custard apple. Although they both ran, Raju arrived at the rock at least a few minutes before Sam. To his great shock and disappointment, there was no custard apple under the rock. Deeply discouraged, Raju, sitting down near the rock, was thinking about the delicious food and the fun that he would have had with his family at his aunt's engagement. Slowly, Sam arrived with no enthusiasm and surprise. Sam tried to console him by saying, "Somebody must have seen us keeping it here and taken it over the weekend." With no option left, Raju had to go to school with Sam. Years later, in a friendly meeting, Sam disclosed that somebody who took the custard apple was he.
What moral lessons can we learn from the story?
We can learn so many lessons. Do not covet others' things. Do not steal. Do not lie. That day, Raju not only did not get to eat the custard apple, but he also missed the fun-filled family time and the delicious food at the engagement function. It all happened because Raju's heart was on the treasure he cherished the most, called the custard apple, which he had hid under the rock. That's why Jesus on the Sermon from the Mount said, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up treasures for yourselves in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Otherwise, cherishing and chasing after the treasure of this world, we might end up missing the fun-filled eternal heavenly family time and the fabulous delicacy of the marriage supper of the Lamb of God in heaven.
Thank you for watching.